Welcome to Mick and T's Sports Report. This is our fourth shot at trying to get this thing right.
Four.
We'll let you guys know how we did. My name is Joe Ticotsky.
I'm Evan McFarlane.
And this is, as we mentioned, Mick and T's Sports Report. So we're going to get right to the section we always like to start with, is the headlines section. First, what I did was I took a look back from our first episode, which was September, I think we filmed it.
Right.
Some of the headlines from there. And one, which you were spot on. Our question was, can anyone stop the Patriots? And your quote was, I fear Kansas City.
Yeah.
And you were right.
Yeah, unfortunately. I didn't want to be right, but I was.
And you did say it would be good for the sport to not have the Patriots in it.
Yeah, I mean, look at that Super Bowl matchup. You got two young up-and-comers, and it's good for the sport to see other people in the finals for sure, because, I mean, everybody gets tired of a dynasty at some point.
Yeah, yep. Then we talked about Andrew Luck's retirement, and there have been too many retirements, too many numerous to mention. Bianca Andreescu with her U.S. Open title, she's sort of, injury-wise, had a tough year.
Yeah, it's been a rough start. Looking to come back soon, so we'll see her. It'd be nice to see her get back to the original way she was and be that dominant player. I think it might take a while, but she'll be welcomed back to the sport for sure.
Definitely. And then we will go. Let's get right into something we're going to do here. Baseball season will soon be upon us, even though when we walked into the studio this morning,
it did not feel like it.
It was, what was it, minus whatever? I think it was
13.
I think it was 15 degrees Fahrenheit, but it was nice and cold. So we're going to do the same thing we did with hockey, where I give you, and you're going to be held to these, I give you 7 or 8 teams, what they predict their over-under for wins is for the year.
Okay.
So we'll start out with the one Canadian team, the Toronto Blue Jays. Their over-under for wins is only 74.5. Now, 81 and 81 is you'd be going 500 in baseball, for those of you who don't know.
It's going to be a rough year. The pieces are there, and they're making a strong effort to bring in some free agents. I think you're going to see them pick up a couple bigger names before the season. 74.5. I'm going to say over, but it's not going to be by much. They're going to be flirting with 500.
The division they're in is so tough.
Yeah, you got to win 85% of your games to get a sniff.
Next up, the defending World Series champs, the Washington Nationals. They're at 88.5.
Right, and it's always hard to follow up a big title year.
And they've lost some pieces.
I don't know. You look same idea as the Raptors. They're doing great after losing some big pieces too. Different sport, I know, but I'll say over to that too.
Okay. The defending, well, from 2 years ago.
Yes.
Cheaters. The Houston Astros, they're at 96 wins.
Devices included or not?
We're saying they're going to go by the rules this year unless they're inventing another way.
I'm going to say the pressure for them to perform and say that we didn't actually do this debacle that's taken place, I think it's going to get to them. I think the league's going to be hard on the fans, are going to be hard on them. I think it's going to be a bad year. I'm going to go, just for argument's sake, we're going to say they're not going to hit that mark.
Okay. Yeah, could wear them down. LA Dodgers at 97.5 wins.
The Dodgers are just expected to do a lot every year. 97.5, that seems like a lot. Let's go lower.
Okay. The Cubbies, 86.5.
Higher. Big move for the Cubs this year.
Okay. And then we'll go with my 3 local teams.
Right.
The New York Mets, the sorry New York Mets, 85.5.
85.5. They'll hit it.
Okay. So you think they'll be over?
I think so.
The Red Sox, 86.5.
They're going to win like 6 games. All my friends will love that comment. Yeah. I'm going to say below, just for the fact that it'll be fun to have 1 million people say, I told you were wrong.
And then the Yankees, 101.5.
Below.
Everyone's sort of just like bestowing the championship on them, crowning them already. And they certainly are talented, but there will be that pressure this year. It's pretty much World Series or bust.
I just think that you've mentioned at least 5 better teams than them, but we're just going to continuously hear Yankees, Yankees, Yankees.
My friends will not want to hear that. A lot of Yankee
That's
fans.
all right. That's what this is all about.
Exactly. The next segment of our headline is something that we're calling "Could It Be a High School Sport?"
Awesome.
And I was reading something online about a sport, so I started looking up sports that are high school sports in other parts of the world that you wouldn't think of here. Japan, judo. Sport of judo created in Japan.
Yeah.
It was created in the late 1800s. Japanese high schoolers compete in judo in a very big way, though it's worth noting that it's also developed a worldwide following. You think judo would ever fly in a...
Yeah, I mean, it's not that far off from wrestling. I think it's something you can do individually. You don't need a team. Individual sports are good. Something you can practice on your own. I doubt it will,
Right.
but it could. It's plausible.
Here's one, I don't know if it will fly. It's called Chinlone, Chinlone from Myanmar. It's very gentle, even graceful. Combines team-based ball sports with dance. There's no score, and there are no points. Okay, a team passes the ball among themselves, resembling soccer players back and forth. But the kicking is combined with dance.
Wow.
So the whole thing takes on a fascinating, graceful performance as the players try to keep the ball, which is woven from rattan, from hitting the ground.
But I don't think it could be a high school sport if there's no winners or losers, but
Exactly.
it sounds like it'd be a good time.
No referees to complain to. What was the one you had mentioned?
I'd love to see school spelling bees be more of a thing. Like when the hockey lockout of 10 years ago or whatever it was now, they had spelling bees. I thought they were great to watch.
The National Spelling Bees.
Sure, why not?
Here's another one from Madagascar. It's called Morangi, Moraingy. Originally created centuries ago as a way for young men to prove their worth.
Okay.
It's a form of bare-knuckled boxing practiced by boys and girls, but it's not as rough as it sounds. There is a referee, and they aren't generally going for knockouts. And this seems to be a common theme. The sport also has its own set of dance-like moves.
Oh, wow.
And there's a religious component to the sport, as it's accompanied by music that is known to lull fighters and spectators into a trance-like state. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What's more, bouts are between the bouts, the boxers perform dances. Okay.
Cool.
All right, that's it for our headlines section. We're going to be back after this with our big Canada-U.S. debate, which we haven't had for a couple episodes.
We haven't.
But
I'm
we're
ready.
bringing it back.
I'm ready.
This is Mick and T's Sports Report. Welcome back to Mick and T's Sports Report on CHCO-TV. I'm Joe Ticotsky.
I'm Evan McFarlane.
In this segment of the show, which we broke the budget, it's called the Big Canada-U.S. Debate. So we got a nice little USA hat.
How nice is this?
And a nice Canada hat there. So that will
nice.
be, yeah, it is what it is. So this debate, the first one was a little non-sports. It was the Dunkin' Donuts versus Tim Hortons. This time we're trying to keep it sports oriented. So it's going to be hockey versus basketball. And I've been pulling him a little bit since I met him like 5 years ago. But he's going to go as a representative of Canada. He will go with hockey. I will take basketball. Now I do know you're going to tell me that basketball was invented by a Canadian.
There goes my first argument.
Dr. Naismith. The one thing I like about basketball is really it's a worldwide sport now. As opposed to hockey, which is, I would say, regional.
Yeah. It's obviously tough to do in warmer climates, and you see the struggle even just in the teams that are in the southern United States now. Like keeping ice in those places, it's hard, and there's a lot more money in it because you have to have the facilities to do it. But they have modified the game. I mean, there is roller hockey, which is pretty big in these other places where you don't actually get the colder climates.
Right, and I guess in Canada it's not a regional sport. in the States, there's still some, there are a lot of colleges down south that don't have hockey teams.
Right.
And with the way climate change is going, pretty soon it'll be hard for everyone to keep the ice.
True enough.
But it is. I like basketball for the fact that it's, and this is recent, really, not when I was growing up, that it's turned into their marketing of it has made it a worldwide sport. Whereas if the equivalent of a Kobe Bryant situation happened in hockey, I don't know if it would have had the worldwide, impact. Helmets.
Yeah.
Basketball, no helmets. Hockey, helmets.
Yeah, that's a really hard thing to argue. Yes, you don't wear helmets in basketball. I know there's been games that I've coached that I wish that some of my players had them on. But if you're looking, the equipment in hockey has been getting better. I mean, it is and it isn't. But the development of new equipment, I think they're starting to look more at the health effects of the sport too, and they've progressed big. There's actually neutral spotters in the crowd now that if someone takes a little hit on the head, that they'll get that guy out of the game immediately and have him checked. And this is something that wasn't really big 5 years ago even. So they've taken a huge leap forward to preserve the health and be more conscious of how players are, because it is a lot of bumping and grinding. So it's nice to see that there is more to the game than the game itself. Like the well-being of the players has been more taken into consideration.
Now, have you seen, I'll say, like the high school generation of kids, are they less wedded to hockey as opposed to up here, as opposed to the previous generation has?
I think it's still pretty big. I mean, it's always going to be, even though lacrosse technically is Canada's sport, hockey is going to be Canada's sport. And you don't see as much, looking back to when I was growing up, there's not as much road hockey and that kind of aspect. Like, it's not hockey all the time. There's more things like basketball, for example, in St. Andrews, that does have a pretty good following now. So kids are playing multiple sports as opposed to when I was growing up, it was hockey 365 days a year.
Right. And it's sort of what's happening in the States with baseball, that the older generation, that was their go-to sport. You woke up in the morning, looked at box scores, and you followed everything. And now is the diversification, which isn't a bad thing.
Right.
I think it adds to it, and it's certainly far from saying that hockey is losing its grip on Canada. Or
there's been a big push. I know Canada-wide, there was a time when arenas were replaced, and now we're kind of getting back into the time when they need to be replaced again. And there's been a really big improvement of facilities across the board. So I think you're seeing hockey coming back. But with media and just accessibility to watch different sports, I think there's people finding new interests, so it's not just centralized like it used to be.
Right. I like basketball. My ear thing keeps coming out here, but we'll work on that.
Ear thing. Hearing aid.
Whatever the industry term is for it. I like the fact that basketball, it's a higher scoring game. I always joke with my friends that are soccer fans about how, oh, what a great game. It was 120 minutes long, and it was 0-0, and everyone clapped when a shot went over the net. I like basketball because it's higher scoring. I guess the hockey argument
But then the goals in hockey just become more memorable because there's less of them. I mean, you have Canada's golden goal when Sidney Crosby scored in the Olympics, but you don't remember all 81 points that Kobe Bryant might have scored, right?
I guess. Yes.
Maybe you do.
No.
I'm just trying to argue with you.
The one go-to that I always come, especially in the winter, I always say with a basketball game, it's the warmest place in town.
Yeah.
It is just so hard to watch an athletic event with a winter jacket and a hat on.
I have a hard time arguing that point. I do enjoy coaching basketball. It's a lot warmer than the hockey days. I'll give you that point.
Now, would you say that is basketball, I guess, the second most popular sport in Canada?
I think it's getting big. I really do. I think that, especially when you have the NBA talent that we're starting to see from Canada, like there's a lot of really good players now, and that qualifying team that we have for the Olympics, like they could probably do some damage. I think like they're actually going to get somewhere, and I think you see the trickle down in schools now because they have people to look up to more. Where before, when I was growing up, you had Steve Nash, and it was Steve Nash only, and then we'd go to a FIBA qualifier and lose to the States 150-8. Like,
And the women's team is very successful in
yeah,
Canada.
exactly. So there's a little more to cheer from. You have better players, but we also have more exposure to them now with technology. So you see more highlights, and we're more aware of what we do have.
Yeah, and they do say that basketball is a game that's so made for this generation of, you watch the 40 seconds of highlights the night before, and you've seen what you need to see, and it sort of affects the viewing of the games.
Right.
But okay, we're going to wrap it up here. So, like I said, this wasn't as much
We'll call it a tie.
A debate as opposed to a discussion about the pluses and minuses of both sports, which there's merit and arguments on both sides of those. And like I said, as new generations come along, they may determine we're more of a soccer generation. Some of it's weather related, obviously, different things like that. But certainly, food for good argument anytime, a hockey versus basketball. All right, so that's been our big Canada-U.S. debate. We are going to finish up.
It's nice. I think this looks good on you.
JT's
Looks so much better, right?
There you go. Throw that on.
It's a good look.
Okay. I
right.
see how that. It's not a MAGA hat.
Yeah.
But we'll be back after this last break, and we're going to do a news section that we call News of the Weird, and we're going to bring back Amelia Welch to help us out with that. Welcome back to Mick and T's Sports Report. This is Joe Ticotsky.
I'm Evan McFarlane.
And I'm Amelia Welch.
We brought Amelia back.
Rave reviews from the last show.
People say get rid of the two pale guys. We have a segment here called News of the Weird, which is actual website. So we're just randomly, we haven't seen these before. We each have one. We're just going to read it. And these have been edited and censored and all that. And they're all from the U.S. and our bizarre stories. In Crystal City, Missouri, police are on the lookout for a man who broke into a vending machine at the Twin City Laundry, pocketing about $600 in change. The station reported he ought to be easy to find. He committed his crime in full view of security cameras, and he was wearing a T-shirt that said, "It's not a crime unless you get caught."
Just asking for it.
What you got, Amelia?
Mine is titled Animal Shenanigans. So police in Elizabethtown, Kentucky were called December 27th to the parking lot of a CVS pharmacy over a public menace. According to the WKYT, the culprit was a hostile chicken that pecked furiously at the officers and made up some abuse use of vehicles for cover before they were able to corral it into a plastic milk crate.
These are ridiculous.
According to the police department's Facebook page, officers transferred the fowl into someone who can give them more suitable accommodations, then attended to their wounds with some donut therapy.
Cheap jab at police there with donuts.
Donut therapy.
Okay,
Nice.
What you got, Evan?
All right. Since you can't make this up, and you probably can't. Otis Latham, 47, and Russell Sparks, 48, of Columbus, Missouri, were arrested on January 6 after they allegedly hatched a cockamamie scheme to win the lottery, WLBT reported. The two arrived at the Mississippi Lottery Corporation in Flowood and presented a losing $100,000 ticket upon which they had glued the winning numbers, according to authorities. Flowood police arrested the pair, who were charged with conspiracy to commit a felony and uttering a counterfeit instrument over $1,000. They were held without bond.
Multitasking.
Good try, though. That's honest effort.
As college student, Morgan Taylor got her nails done in a High Point, North Carolina salon on November 20th. She was shocked when one of the nail technicians spread out a tarp on the shop floor and began butchering meat with what appeared to be a kitchen knife. I asked them what it was because seeing them unload flesh and bones was a little bit shocking, she said. They said it was deer meat and they were splitting it up between the workers to take home. It had already been skinned, they were just sectioning it. She then reported the shop to the Board of Cosmetic Art Examiners, which told the station, "We haven't received a complaint within recent memory of butchering in a cosmetic shop."
Mine is titled Entrepreneurial Spirit. Blended Gale Belinda Gale Fondren, 52, of Evans, Louisiana, was charged with filling and maintaining false public records on October 23rd after it was discovered that she was writing fake doctor's notes for high school students so that they could get out of class. Fondren, who worked at a medical clinic, charged $20 for each excuse. Vernon Parish Sheriff Sam Kraft told the WTAP he was also said it was common knowledge among students that excuses were for sale. 2 students obtained excuses on 14 occasions, he said. Fondren fraud came to light when someone from the Vernon Parish School Board called a doctor about the notes, which was denied having authorized. Her bond was sent for $15,000.
Oh man, I'd be so poor.
That's a good message.
The amount of $20 bills I would go through.
Scheme.
All right, here's one. Firefighters in Las Vegas discovered what they say is an illegal homemade gas station in a backyard on January 7th. The setup comprised 2 yellow tanks in the corner of a walled yard and a gas pump nozzle on the end of a hose long enough to reach from the backyard to the curb out front, the Associated Press reported, for possible curbside fill-ups. This is not only illegal in the city, Las Vegas Fire and Rescue wrote on social media, it's a hazard to neighbors and to first responders who may respond there for an emergency like a fire. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police are investigating and believe it is part of a scheme to purchase gasoline with stolen credit cards and stash the fuel in storage containers at private homes.
All right, we'll finish up with this last one. Act of desperation. After Donna Maria Shave failed her driver's license test 3 times in a district of Brazil, her son decided to take matters into his own hands. On December 10th, he put on a stuffed bra, long skirt, and makeup, and showed up at the Department of Traffic claiming to be his mother, ready to take the test again. The examiner became suspicious and summoned the police. At first, I thought she was drunk. Then I realized the student was actually a man, so I decided to proceed normally and wait for officers. I think he pitied his mother for failing 3 times. He was arrested for fraudulent misrepresentation and released. Okay, we hope you enjoyed that little left turn.
It's a little different.
Into news of the weird. Now we're going to finish up with our last words, the Charlotte County Spotlight. The Charlotte County Dial-A-Ride, our charity spotlight based out of St. Stephen. Their mission is to provide access to transportation that's dependable, courteous, safe, efficient, and inclusive. And it's charlotte-dial-ride.com. So you get a little easier website. 466-4444. And David Welch, our helper in the back room there, was his father was the chairman of the first steering committee looking to help solve ride issues, and David was the first president of the Dial-A-Ride. Okay, music spotlight. I decided to go old school but keep it Canadian, so they probably haven't heard of, well, maybe one of them. Bruce Cockburn.
Come on.
Whose famous song, Wondering Where the Lions Are.
I mean, yeah, I probably knew what it was if I heard it, as we've seen in previous episodes.
I was going to say, based on the quiz. And actually, I saw him in Maine somewhere. This is his live solo CD, and the guy's like over 70. It just keeps bringing it. And then good old Neil Young.
Who?
Neil Young.
Oh, Neil Young.
That Neil Young. You know who Neil Young is?
Neil Young is, yep.
There. Yeah, just became an American. But he's from Toronto. Harvest Moon. You don't get a better song, a better mellow song than that. It's awesome. That's our music spotlight. Shout outs. We decided to give an overseas shout out to some of the former exchange students that played basketball at SJDA. There's Yammer from Turkey, who pronounced her last name, and I can never get it correct. And that, what was her last name? Yammer.
Started with a K. I just can't remember.
Kukinovich or something?
Something like that, yep.
And then from Germany, the 3 girls who played for us, Emma, Emmy, and Lily. So we say hello to you, and Evan wanted me to give a shout out to Carlos.
Hey, Carlos.
Do you have a shout out?
I don't have a shout out. No, not one off the top of my head.
Okay. It's your
Nobody
mom?
made the list.
Well, I guess I could shout out to my mom,
There we go. Good save, good save.
My mom watching me at home.
What do you got for shout out?
No, I think Carlos was the one that I had to get out of the way. I know he'll tune in on this. And
Excellent.
He'll be excited.
All right. Once again, we'd like to thank Patrick Watt, station manager, and David Welch for helping behind the scenes to really make make this possible, allowing us to do it and making it look a lot better than it seems from up here while we're doing it. But we hope you guys enjoyed it. If it's on the YouTube channel eventually, feel free to put comments and suggestions in a nice, kind Canadian way.
Sorry.
And then we'll be back in probably spring, early summer with some more episodes. We have some great ideas for interviews and features and things like that, so we're hoping to keep it rolling. Once again, this is Amelia Welch, our special guest who we're probably going to use every episode. I'm Joe Ticotsky.
I'm Evan McFarlane.
This has been Mick and T's Sports Report on CHCO-TV.